When it comes to Fed speak, America's central bank isn't speaking with one voice these days. Some influential members say now may be the time for the Fed to raise interest rates. Others say not so fast. And it's all coming to a head at the annual gathering of the world's central bankers in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where Steve Leisman spoke to many of the key players.
As the Federal Reserve gathers in the mountains of Wyoming to look closely at the U.S. labor market, the debate brewing on the sideline is whether that labor market and the economy are both strong enough to warrant earlier rate hikes. Philadelphia Fed President Charles Plosser thinks it's time for the Fed to move.
I just think we are running a very risky policy, if you will, given where the stance of the economy is and seems to be going. I would prefer us to begin raising rates sooner and raising them more gradually. But the longer we wait, the more risk I see it as us having to raise rates very quickly in response to a stronger economy and perhaps more inflation.
San Francisco Fed President John Williams says if the economy improves faster than the Fed forecasts, he could see rates rising sooner. But knowing what he knows now, he thinks the current consensus of July 2015 is about right.
I think that thinking around summer of 2015 for the first rate hike is a reasonable guess, given where we think the economy is going and you know, how much progress we're making towards our goals. But again, it really depends on the data. If the data really get stronger, then it could be a little earlier. And if the data disappoint, it could be a little later.
While the labor market is the subject of this year's meeting, other issues on the mind of policymakers include whether they should be raising rates to ward off excessive risk-taking in markets born of zero interest rates, whether that should be done with regulation or by raising rates, and whether the market is too complacent in thinking rate hikes are a year away.
The economy is already showing signs. So as we look ahead, does the economy look like it's able to sustain this? I think it signals a very important decision point for the committee to say we will have to move at some point. I don't want us to be behind the curve in beginning to normalize interest rates.
The key speech will be tomorrow by Fed Chair Janet Yellen at 10 a.m. Eastern. It'll be her first address to the Jackson Hole Group as the head of the U.S. Central Bank. Yellen will be followed by European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, who could provide some hints as to measures he might take to address the renewed bout of economic weakness on the continent. The world will be listening as central bankers give hints for the policy outlook. And so will some of the local inhabitants, like this moose and her calf in tow, who emerged from the brush outside the lodge just as the Fed meeting was set to begin. For Nightly Business Report in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I'm Steve Leisman.